Yeah, when they first sort of like made these time dials, the Roman, they put them everywhere in every city they took over.
Yeah.
And this guy is sort of saying that, you know, it's chopped his life up to little bits, and he was sort of complaining, you know. He said that his stomach used to be sundial, you know, or the clock, if you see what I mean. It used to be the time when he got hungry, a human being or a person gets hungry, you eat.
Yeah.
But then you had the clock come in, and it was cutting everyone's hours up, you know, and starving people, making people weaker.
Yeah.
Where they weren't allowed to eat all day anymore, like you're meant to, like horses. They eat all day long, don't they? Horses, you know. But we were cut up to sort of say, morning, you can have some breakfast then, tea break, you know, and all this kind of stuff. You can have a drink, you know, and that's what it was, you know. Like clocks really sort of like chopped people up, basically, I think, and made people weaker.
Right.
I mean, it's right if you're on the other side of the clock, where you don't have to look at it, like myself.
Yeah.
I don't really need a clock anymore, to be honest with you, an alarm clock. They don't control my life whatsoever. You know, it's quite great. You think of like these years as well, and the months, you know, where it's sort of like winter, summer, you know, it's all being chopped up.
Yeah.
And it's like we're all following some kind of order. But really, like you think about like the animals, they don't really sort of have days of the week or any years or anything. They don't really have birthdays either, do you know what I mean? It's just something that man's sort of like being brainwashed with.
Oh, of course, yeah. It's just different ideas and things that
it is good because, you know,
been
like
introduced into our society, you know what I mean, throughout time, you know, different, you know.
Oh, I know that I'm 57 now, you know, and I've sort of seen quite a few winters now. A few summer, you know, a lot of summers, you know, and it's only when you get old you start realising that, you know, it gets cold, then warm, you know, then warm, you know, every year.
Yeah.
And man sort of like, obviously, sort of thought about this and started writing it down, and everything, you know.
Predominantly most of it from ancient times up until now really is just observation, you know. They used to just observe the sun's movements and stuff like that. Even back then, like you said, before they had clocks, people used to rely on the sun. But when they knew the sun was rising, they always knew kind of that it was about between 5:30 and 6:30 in the morning, if you see what I mean. And they would get up at a certain time, and, you know, lunchtime, you know, they would know when that sun's at its highest point in the sky during the day, that it's around, like, you know, kind of like midday, you know what I mean, kind of like 12 o'clock, you know, 12:30, 1:30, and then obviously as time, as you know, as the sun slowly kind of, you know, descends and kind of goes down, they know it's, you know, it's like 5:30, 6:30, maybe 7 o'clock in some places, you know what I mean.
I can kind of work out, actually.
So
I think I can work out what time it is without even looking at the clock.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, in the winter time, it starts getting
dark early,
quite early.
Quite early, 4:30 sometimes.
And then as the spring comes, it starts sort of getting lighter. Sort of 10 minutes every day in a kind of way, you know, or 5 minutes or something like that.
Well, I was going to say, sometimes here in the UK, the blessing is, the good thing about sometimes the summer here in the UK is sometimes like at 10 o'clock at night, it might still be a little bit bright and the sun might be now going down. Like, I've seen it before here in the UK sometimes where literally it started getting dark at like 9:30 at night. You know what I mean, like really late, and I've never experienced that until I come back here, if you see what I mean, until I come back to the UK, like, you know, never knew it could be, you know, so bright, so late at night, if you see what I mean, still, you know, so.
I mean, depending where you live, it would have different sort of light, doesn't it?
Of course, yeah.
Different.
Your geographical
it's like, for instance,
location.
Well, it's like, for instance, here in the winter time, we have Christmas and all that, and snow and Father Christmas and that. But whilst in Australia, it's really quite hot.
Yeah.
It's boiling hot. You know, it's summertime there.
Well, I was going to say it's the same in the Caribbean, because for me, I grew up in the Caribbean for predominantly most of my younger life, And it was the same there at Christmas, but it's still like any other day, it's hot. You know what I mean? It's just, obviously you have your little celebration as you do, you know, kind of different little, you know, with all your boys and stuff, you know, have a little drink and a smoke and eat some good food and, you know, chill out and whatever. But it's like you said, it's like, it's, you know.
I mean, in some places it rains all the time. It's all, you know, it's foggy and damp all the time.
Yeah.
All year round, honestly. You know, it's quite remarkable our world in a funny way. You know, sort of like you go to different places, like in the North Pole, say.
Yeah.
And the sun's going around the horizon like this all day. You know, and it's all light all day.
Yeah.
If you see what I mean. You know, because the sun never goes down.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think that happens all year round, but at a certain point it does. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Or it's just very interesting that like different places. Some places don't have rain at all. You know, nothing. You know, it's completely dry. Or, you know, it might be very rare that they do have rain now. If it does rain, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or some places have snow all year round.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, it's quite. I think our planet's very special, and I think people should appreciate it more.
Yeah. True.
Know?
Yeah.
And the weather. You know, like the weather might get rough sometimes and we might not enjoy it, but I'd rather live on this planet than I would on Venus or Mars, you know, or anything else.
Well, you couldn't live there, that's the thing.
Well, that's it, you know, so you've got to appreciate the oxygen. I mean, I think what a beautiful thing oxygen is, really, you know.
Yeah.
It's invisible, so we can see through it. You know, it's lucky it's not, you know, can you imagine if it, you know, wasn't transparent, you know, if it was smoky oxygen, you know, like black. You know, we wouldn't see anything, would we? Do you know what I mean? So it's quite amazing, I think. And water is also transparent, which to me it enables the fish to see.
Yeah.
Which is quite amazing, you know. I think like there's two worlds here really on this planet. There's a living in the air, and there's down in the water. Do you know what I mean? Where the fish can't survive up in the air. You know, they need water.
And our planet is predominantly made up of water.
Yeah.
You know, as we know. You know.
Yeah, everything is, isn't it? You know, like we're apparently
we're like
mostly water.
Mostly water, exactly. So, you know.
Well, it's a good idea to drink good fresh water every day.
Every day, yeah.
And that's quite a wise thing to do, I think.
I do. I try to drink, you know, at least a certain amount every day of water. You know, especially when I wake up in the morning. You know, flush out the system. You know.
That's another. You know, you've got to be wise, really, about looking after yourself, haven't you? About keeping yourself clean. And I think trying to make yourself stronger in life as well.
Yeah.
If you can. I think that's important, you know. I don't think it's any good sort of just relaxing every day and putting your feet up and do no exercise.
Yeah.
That's not very wise, I don't think. You know, you've got to sort of keep yourself fit.
Yeah.
And try to get yourself fitter if you can as you're getting older, you know. But that's going to be impossible, you know, because nobody can stop getting old or nobody can stop dying.
Of course.
No matter how wise you are.
Yeah.
You know, you just can't, you know.
Yeah.
Even if you're the wisest person in the world, you've got to sort of try to keep yourself strong and you've got to try to survive, haven't you, as long as you can.
Exactly.
You know, I think that's really the purpose of life, is really trying to survive as long as you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I want to do anyway. I mean, I don't, like, when you do, can you imagine sort of getting quite old? You know, and you do see some, I do see, I know you do, you see old people, you know, and they're in pain sometimes and things like that, you know.
Yeah, it's not easy.
Well, I can remember my granddad always complaining, I'm getting these aches and pains all the time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, there's a quote saying...
Well, like we said before, though, the older you get, the more the body deteriorates.
Yeah,
That just
it does.
It's a natural progression of deterioration, if that makes sense, as you get older, you know. And of course, depending on how well you look after yourself, depends also sometimes upon how and when that happens, you know, because you do, like, I've got some neighbours right now who are both in their 90s and they're still walking around fit every day. He's still driving, still driving, you know what I mean? They still walk around every day, they still do their own food shopping, they still do everything, if you see what I mean. Like, they're completely independent, they don't, you know. And of course that is the exception to the rule, but I'm just going to, you know, just trying to say they're fit and healthy, and they're both in their 90s, still walking around doing everything, and still, you know, sharp and mentally, you know. So, yeah.
I think like the 3 things that a wise person tries to avoid is pain. That's number 1, I think. War and death. Really. I think that's it really, you know. I think, and there's a number of things as well really, but I think that's the 3 main ones, I think. I mean, I think it's just a good idea to be positive in life. It's wise to be happy with yourself.
That's it.
I think it's wise to do the right things in life. Make the right choices in life.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I don't make the right choices, even this week, say. You know, I might be watching the wrong thing, and I could have done a better thing, if you see what I mean, you know, when I'm looking back, you know what I mean? But I think we're all striving to be as wise as we can in this world, aren't we?
Yeah, of course, I think so.
And I think, also I think it's a shame that it's not in their, you know, I can sort of see children leaving, when they leave school, a lot of them got no compassion whatsoever, you know, and I think it's so important, compassion. And I think it's a beautiful thing to learn as well, you know, but, you know, I think it's a shame that it's not in the school curricula.
Yeah, curriculum, yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a big word for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I mean, I'm still learning about words, do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like I said, I'm not, when I left school, I wasn't interested in English or anything, you know, and I just didn't take no interest in writing stories or anything like that. But now the last 10 years I am. I love it, you know, and I wish I did at school, you know, like I wish that I could read and write when I was at school, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, because it's a very useful skill.
Yeah.
I think if you can learn to read and write before you're 6 years old, I think you've got everything going for you.
Oh, of course, yeah.
If you can get independent with sort of, you know, reading a book without any help.
Yeah.
I think you can learn a lot of other things then.
Yeah. It's true.
But it's not all about just reading, you know, it's about using your imagination too. I think, like, I used to daydream a lot.
Yeah.
And the teachers used to sort of, like, when I sort of daydream in the class, they used to sort of, oi, you know, tell me off.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Or, you know, what did I just say on the blackboard? I said, well, I was daydreaming, sorry. You know,
Yeah.
But I think a child should never ever get told off when they're daydreaming, because I'll tell you why. When a child's daydreaming, that's when they're learning the most, by the way.
Yeah.
You know, they're exploring their own mind. When you daydream, you're exploring your own mind. And it's the only way you can make it grow bigger, by the way. The more you use it, the bigger it's going to get, I think. And I think, like, I used to have a big imagination when I was little. And it grows a bit, you know, every year.
Yeah.
And having an imagination is part of wisdom, I think, as well. And, you know, you've got your knowledge, like, what do you know, what have you learned so far? I feel that I'm happy with what I know, if you see what I mean. I'm happy with what I've learned in life, you know. So, I mean, I know a lot about birds, but I don't feel like I need to learn any more about them.
Yeah.
It's not going to, I don't think it's
not
going to help me.
Not going to add much value to...
Well, like I say, some things you can learn, but they don't really help you to get wiser. You can learn about birds for years and years, but at the end of the day, is it making you any wiser person? Yeah. Which is important, isn't it?
Is it benefiting you in any way?
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I think really important in life, is like, as I say, respect, all those kind of things, you know.
Yeah.
And loving yourself, learning that, learning how to understand other people with empathy and all this, and you know, all kinds of things, you know. And I think it's all
just trying to be the best version of yourself.
I think these things could be all simply taught to children.
Yeah, of course.
If you see what I mean, you know, they're not,
Yeah.
which makes me angry in a kind of way.
Mm.
I don't think it's not wise at all, you know. Wouldn't it be great if we're all living in a world where we're all wise?
Yeah.
We understood how to respect each other.
Yeah.
And how to love all the frogs. There's no hate, you see.
Mm.
How to love all the ants, love all the trees. Yeah? That's what children need teaching.
Mm.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And they're not being taught it, so how do they know? If you see what I mean. You know? That's that really.
Yeah. Yeah, wisdom is very important, mate, and you know, especially like, you know, when you've got children and stuff like this, like we were talking about earlier, it's up to you as a parent to kind of like guide your kids from an early age. You know, you've got to kind of, you know, teach them all, you know, all the stuff that you know as an adult, you know, and you've learned, and you know, over the years, the lessons and things that you've learned and life experiences that you've had, you're able to impart the knowledge and wisdom and stuff like that you've accumulated as a person over the years to your children. And I think the younger, you know, once they get to a certain age, you've got to, you know, teach them about the realities of life and what life's all about and what's expected of them once they get to a certain age, and you know, the fact that they have to survive in the world that we live in, you know, financially, amongst everything else, you know. So it's just about educating them about all sorts of things, you know, about finances, about just being, like you said, just being a good human being, you know, about being respectful, being trustworthy, being honest, being loving, being kind, being generous, being empathetic, being compassionate, being, you know, a good husband, a good father, you know, a good brother, you know, etc. Like, you know, yeah.
I mean, this is a very difficult world we're living in when you think about it.
Oh, it is, yeah. So that's why it's even harder today for a lot of people to, to always make the right choices and right decisions, you know. But when you get to a certain point in your life and you start adopting these kind of principles, it's just like you can't even do certain things. Like, if you see what I mean, like, you know, once you get to a certain point where you're living like a very clean, kind of righteous, kind of pure life. Well, no one is perfect, but as pure as you kind of, you know what I mean? Like, you're always honest in everything you do, you know, you're transparent, you're, you know, etc. Like, kind of living life righteously. There's certain things you can't even do, like, you know, like, even if the thought went across your mind, like, you know, you would dismiss it straight away, because, like, you know, it's not something you can do, like, you know, it's, you know better. If you see what I mean.
I'm not perfect, or I'm not being an angel in my life, do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I try my best. I mean, I used to drink a little bit, you know, but I gave that one up, so I'm better of myself in that way, I feel.
Yeah.
I mean, I do drink a little bit occasionally, you know, sort of have a drink on my birthday maybe. I don't have too much now, do you know what I mean? I'm a bit wiser.
Okay.
Because, you know, like, drink, what does it do to you at the end of the day? Do you know what I mean? It might sort of make you happy for 1 minute or a few hours, but the next day, you know, you feel pretty rotten, don't you? Do you know what I mean? I don't think it does anything good, you know, I just don't think it's wise.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day. But anyway, you know, that's that. But I feel that at the moment, I'm enjoying life more than I ever have done.
That's a blessing.
Well,
itself.
I feel that I'm a little bit wiser, you know, now. I've had a number of relationships in my life, you know, and I've learned from them, you know. I think I've learned also to sort of enjoy being alone.
Yeah.
Which I think is very important, you know. I think that's another thing that comes down to wisdom, really, I think. Sort of like learning how to live on your own.
Yeah.
And how to be happy alone. There's a lot of, like I've said it previous before, a lot of people aren't happy today because they live alone and they feel alone. And even though we've got 9 billion people on this planet, whatever, you know, there's lots and lots of people feel alone.
Yeah, it's true, isn't that crazy?
Yeah. I think sometimes it is down to the imagination a little bit, you know.
Yeah, sometimes it's a mind thing too, as well. You know, it's there's nothing wrong with being alone. You know, being alone brings solitude. You know, brings serenity to your life. Sometimes people need to be alone for a certain amount of time, especially if they've been in a long relationship or whatever, and they and they separated or got divorced or whatever. I think people sometimes after that people need some alone time. You know, people need time to heal and
Well, that was it. I mean, I've gone through it, you know, and I had to heal. Like you're saying, it took me quite a few years, and now I feel healed.
Yeah. Be able to enjoy your life fully again and be happy again completely, and you know.
I've had a funny life, to be honest with you, sort of even through my childhood, because I've had some good times, really good times, and I've had really bad times. You know, like I didn't like school, for instance. You know what I mean? But once I was out of school, I loved it.
Yeah.
You know, I was free, and then I've sort of gone through a number of relationships in my life, and you know, like now I feel like I'm just so happy, really, and free from all that. If you see what I mean, I learned from it all.
Yeah.
And I can just like look at it like a photograph, and like I say, some people have not really experienced, have they, even having a kiss or having sex or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? They've not, and they might be like 60 years old, and they've been lonely all their lives.